Welcome to Women Lead, a production of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute. We are your hosts. I'm Bernadette Norris Weeks.
And I'm Michelle Austin Pammies.
And today our show is about having a winning mindset. And the session will offer tips on how to maintain a winning attitude and a mindset which involves getting through challenges and goals and meeting goals and endeavors, but also learning how to stay motivated and focused as you navigate life.
Well, we've talked about the winning mindset, and we have for you our moderator, Pam Booker, who's an attorney with the Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell Law Firm,
our firm.
And she will be asking questions and delving into the depth of what it takes for 4 extraordinary women business leaders to succeed.
Absolutely. And there are two business leaders are Danny Augustin and Janice Augustin. They are multi-brand franchisors. Is that right? Franchisors? Franchisees. And we also have Ramona Phillips Hall. She is the founder and CEO of Phillips Concessions, LLC, and she is amazing as well. And not to mention the incomparable Carol Ann Taylor. She's a partner and co-founder of Cultures to Go. And so Carol Ann is a legend in the South Florida area, and we were so glad to have all of these ladies join us at the Women of Color Empowerment Conference.
So when we said franchisees, I wanted to be clear. That means you have more than one franchise, right? Yes, several. And with respect to Ramona Phillips and her concessions, for those who don't know, that means she's an airport concessionaire.
But she also has independent stores, and I understand now outside of the Florida area, in Chicago even. So this woman is doing the darn thing. But Michelle, in terms of mindset, girl, I think we have that winning mindset. Don't you agree?
Well, I don't want to brag, but at the end of the day, I think so, because I know we're people who get up every morning knowing that whatever it takes to get through the day and get the things done, we go after it and do it.
That's right. That's right. And the interesting thing is, when you think about in a week's time, all of the things that we come across from the municipalities that we represent, from businesses that we represent, and we're able to just meet those challenges with whatever the issues are. But I think a part of it is also having a great network.
I agree. The network is optimal because you need a network, not just in business, but for almost everything else in life. Just a reference, what a good school is for your kids to attend.
That's right.
How to get a job. And probably if you have a good enough network, you go through your network to get a job before you go to a headhunter. And you're probably more successful there.
So mindset, network, and these ladies are going to tell us a lot more. So I can't wait to hear more about this winning mindset. Stay tuned. Right after these messages, come on back.
And I color out loud, repping my town. If you wanna feel amazing right now, flash up your lights and color the whole town. La-di-day-yo. Yo, I color out loud, repping my town. La-di-day-yo. Everyone under celebrate, make a toast.
The law office of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
So one of the first questions was listening to Michelle Obama talk about her book and not feeling like she belonged in the room. until she got in those rooms with very high, powerful people and realized they were not as smart as she anticipated. And she did belong in that room. So can each of you share with us some of those moments when you realized you belonged in the room?
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Women of Color for inviting me out to participate this year. I had an opportunity to come here, I think 10 years ago, on a similar panel, and I had different brands at that time. But to your question, Pam, I realized I belonged in the room a while ago, like really right out of college, with one of my first jobs, and working with men and understanding what they thought of me, and me walking into the room what I thought of them initially, until they opened their mouths, and not bashing my brothers, but just really realizing that it was the opportunity that I had to either fall in line with what they were doing or show them a different way to do things. And by doing so, it kind of helped build my self-esteem at a very young age to realize I can do things outside of what the box they put me inside of.
Janine?
So my story is a little different. So I come from a small town, Port Arthur, Texas. Thank you for having us, by the way, the Franchise Girls. Danny forgot to say that. Small town, single mom. So I was always like, I had to prove something. I did not want to go back to my little town of Port Arthur, Texas. So I went to Texas A&M, graduated, and every opportunity I had, I came in as a protection and control engineer. So I'm in the field with all these men. They looking at me like, I got to help you hold your equipment. Nope, I'm going to do it myself. I always was like, I can do this, I have this. But I feel like I really began to have my voice was when I moved into the office. And I had an amazing, sometimes we have to have good leaders that help us and encourage us. And he said, you have a voice, Jenny. So I'll be in the meetings, and I was always quiet. I'm not quiet anymore. And he was like, when you're in a meeting with these men, you have to speak up. You have to be heard, or you're looked at as she's not interested, or she's not, as a woman, she's not engaged, right? So even if you say one word, you better speak up. And he taught me that, and he taught me that you do have a voice. And that's really when I began to what they say, get the wind under my wings.
Ms. Taylor?
So I have a story that will age me. I learned to be me from wonderful women that I was in New York, I was in Harlem, I was working for the governor of New York, Rockefeller, and I got to then spend time with the likes of, I helped in Shirley Chisholm's campaign, and Fannie Lou Hamer, and Dorothy Height I worked for. And so they taught me how to be me. They saw that I was uncomfortable, feeling like I was not worthy of even being around them. And eventually they taught me that I was just as good as they were, and that I could do anything that they could do. And it was such a process, it was such a wonderful process. You don't even know it's happening.
Those are all excellent stories. Thank you so much for sharing. One of the things, too, in some of the conversations is that wasn't your space. So how did you learn about it? What did you do to get up to speed to be able to own and operate these franchises and start your own business in the retail space? What were those tools? What did you do for your mindset to get ready for that venture?
It's funny you mentioned, speaking what Dr. Hicks said earlier about it's 90% mental and 10% physical. For me, it was relationships. I was a lobbyist at the time, and I worked on a project in Scott and Carver Projects called Hope 6, and the company there had another company in Atlanta called Concessions International. They owned over 51% of all the concessions in Hartsfield-Jackson Airport at the time. And they said, Ramona, we want to come into Miami to bid. I said, great, I'll be your lobbyist. Little did I know, I started seeing the opportunity in the research. I said, you know what? I take that back. I want to be a partner. I want equity participation. So I reduced my lobbying fees, and I went full force. I helped put together the team. We were successful. But again, as Pam said, I had no experience. I cook well. I'm a great cook. But I had no experience in running a business. So the partnership, which was great, and everyone, I have different partnerships. This was probably the best partnership someone such as myself could have had going into the food space. the Russell family, God bless H.A. Russell, and they held my hand. They taught me how to work in this space, what P&Ls were, about food costs and labor and brands, and I thank them to this day. I wouldn't be here without that partnership. So that's how I transitioned to this space. I had a great partner that educated me on the space, and I was willing to learn and do the work.
I have a different story, kind of. I told you that I'd been fired from the mayor's office, and I opened a store at Bayside. I opened that store not even knowing how to take the money and put it in a bank, frankly. The thing that I did that was the best I could have done was hire a good lawyer and a good accountant. You cannot live without that, and that's who helped me to grow my business at Bayside. And as an aside, when I was with the mayor, I helped to negotiate the Bayside contract. And one of the things that we demanded was that 50%, 25 Hispanic, 25 African American, had to be in that space. So, and the banks back then were very generous. Southeast Bank gave each one of us $50,000 as our line of credit. And first thing I did was go out and buy a van and put Bayside to go on it. But yeah, that's how, I didn't know one thing about it, but you can learn one step at a time. And what I realized as well is because my store did so very well, it was the logo store at Bayside. So everybody wanted something that said Bayside. So I didn't even realize that I was doing more business than anybody else in the space, because I didn't know what I was doing. And I have to tell you this funny story. When I first opened Bayside, the very first day, we made so much money until I just threw it in a shopping bag and took it home. But so you got to be able to pivot. And I had 2 children I had to look after, so whatever it was that came next, it came next, and that's what came next. And that's what helped me to continue to grow and learn this business. And I have never looked back. It's been 30 years, 35 years.
Janice and Danny.
And I color out loud, reppin' my town. If you wanna feel amazing, right now, flash up your lights and color the whole town, la-di-day-yo. Yo, I color out loud, reppin' my town. La-di-day-yo. Everyone under the celebrate, make a toast.
For us, for me, the reason why I chose franchise was because it's a playbook already. It's a plug and play. There's nothing I'm coming up with. You're just going in and you're going to follow the recipe. You're going to follow what they've already done. They've already lost. They're the one who's already taken the loss. At this point, all you're doing is making profits. So that's why we chose franchise. And then, I was like, we're engineers, we'll figure it out, so it'll be all right.
Excellent. One of the other things that the studies have shown in business is 50% of the businesses fail within the first 5 years due to lack of sufficient capital. So can you talk about your startup in this, and how did you protect yourself? You've all been at this for a long period of time now. You've exceeded that 5-year window. What did you do?
Y'all ready for the story? It's a scary story.
Get close.
Get close. No. First of all, I love their passion, their energy. I'm sitting here looking at them with the wide-eyed energy, like, that was me. That was me. A few years ago, that was me in the beginning. But I'm glad you shared this, because some people say, oh my gosh, she has Chick-fil-A, she has Starbucks, oh, this is so great. I have failed multiple times. I failed. I've learned my lesson. And sometimes it's not about the capital, it's about a location. My very first failure was in Miami International Airport. I was so excited, that deal I told you about. I had 2 locations. I was a Nestle Toll House cookie. You know, United was coming into the wing at the airport. Then all of a sudden, like Carolyn Taylor, United pulls out. I've invested $432,000 in a cookie company where no one came at all at that part of the airport. It was just a ghost town. So I put my lobbying hat back on, and I went to the county and said, hey, I'm a small business owner. Your consultant said this will be foot traffic. Your consultant said United would be here. They pulled out. How can you make me whole? Of course, local governments can't write a check, but they find other opportunities for you. That's failure number 1. Failure number 2, Einstein Brothers Bagel, so excited to go into Jackson Memorial Hospital in 2016 with a Starbucks and an Einstein's. Little did I know my lease, I couldn't have a sign where I wanted the sign so people could know where I was located. So Starbucks was doing great, but then Einstein's was failing. So I had to make a decision to close that operation. Again, another loss, but again, it's a lesson learned, and again, not due to capital, it's due to foot traffic, and at that point of lease and not being able to negotiate in time to get the signage issue corrected. So as lovely as this entrepreneurial franchise, I'm a licensee, by the way, business is, there are risks that you take, and sometimes it's not capital. But on the capital side, what I did was develop a great relationship with a banker. You have to have a relationship with them, particularly if you're a woman of color, you have to have a relationship. I was able to create a relationship with a woman, Cuban American, grew up in Alabama, but from Cuba, so she understood racism and not being in that space and being looked at differently because she was living in Alabama and she was Cuban, and then she came back to Miami as an adult. And she said, Ramona, the passion that you met with me and talked to me about your business, you know, I was willing to take a risk. And sometimes just bankers want to take a risk on you, how you show up, who you are. And I met her on a Wednesday, and she funded me a week and a half later, $1.6 million, and I was able to start my business. And we are still friends to this day. She's changed banks 3 times. She's still my biggest champion. When I have an issue regarding banking, I can always go to her. So I would say, for me, on the capital side, not having lack of, but someone to explain to you how to maneuver through those times. And particularly, I would like to talk about COVID and capital. I had a $69,000 monthly payment to my lender for the locations I had. And I was able, with that relationship, to go back and refinance my terms to 10 years, and my payment went down to 30 grand. So it's about relationships and knowing how to move in those spaces and knowing how to utilize capital and be an education about it, not just, well, I have a bank loan. Like, no, this is what's happening. Let's get creative. So just want to share that bit with you all.
So I have to agree with you on that. You have to have a banker. Like, I know my bankers, we have changed bankers, but I'm on the phone with him all the time. Like, we're strategizing, how can we make this loan? What should we be looking at? He's bringing me brands. I'm like, no, Ed, we're not doing this. But you have to have that relationship, because at the end of the day, they're the one who's going to fund you, and they're the one who's going to find you the best rate. And you have to push back. We have not signed a loan that we didn't push back on certain things. Like, I'll be like, well, can't you waive that? Isn't there this? I think our first Nothing Bundt cakes, we're brand new to it. We're green to it. And we had a storm in South Florida. And I was like, well, Chase is doing XYZ. And then the bank was like, I was like, can't you match that for me? Even though we weren't open, but I still pushed back. And they were like, okay, we'll match it. Okay, we'll do this. Every time we had an issue, I wasn't like, oh, I need to figure this out. I'm like, no, they need to figure this out. Find me this money. I'm always like, I don't have money. Find me money. That's all. I'm like, I don't have this money. You'll figure.
You gotta speak. When they say you gotta speak, I'm like, we do have money.
And I'm like, Ed, I don't have money. I do not have money. I'm not putting any injection into this project. Find us some money. How can we make this happen? So I think capital is very difficult, especially whenever you start up. Even in franchise world, you're a new business. You can be like, oh, this is a 20-year franchise, 50-year. You can start a McDonald's, and you will still be considered a startup. So fine.
I like to piggyback on that. Everybody likes Chick-fil-A, right? Yeah. I could not get finance for Chick-fil-A when I opened my first Chick-fil-A. I thought I was getting, well, first of all, I opened my Chick-fil-A in COVID, so let's start there. So I was getting finance, then COVID happened, but even after that, I could not get finance for a Chick-fil-A, which basically is, you open the door and there you are. You're not saying you're printing money, but you're doing okay. And it's interesting in this space, if she's tropical smoothie and nothing but cakes. I'm Chick-fil-A and Starbucks. It doesn't matter. Banks are really hesitant to go into the food space because they know the loss. Like I mentioned, I had to close 2 locations. Guess what? They still got their money. But again, sometimes they may not get their money when businesses close, small businesses close. I just want to share that.
True. That's very true. They're very hesitant. They're always like, well, it's risky. They have their own calculation on certain brands. They're like, okay, well, this brand is on our list of good, but this brand isn't, even though you're like, this is a winner. So you do want to have those relationships. You can't just think you're going to go in. That's why it's important to have your banker relationship as well as your CPA, your accountant, because when they ask you for those numbers, they're not like, oh, I think I did well. I think this. They're like, where's your documentation? Exactly. They don't trust what you say. They're like, oh, you're probably lying. Where's your professional person who's going to sign off and say, this I'm attesting to, basically. So you have to have that. I think we made a mistake our first year when we had Nothing Bundt Cakes we had selected accountant, our tax person, right? Yeah, the accountant. And we looked at the numbers and we're like, we're not professionals in that area, but this doesn't make sense. How do we owe money? We just opened, we had loss. Like, there's no way we owe money. And I was like, for our investment property, we depreciate on our home. So I'm like, why didn't you depreciate any of our equipment? Like, I know that much. And the guy's like, oh, well, no, this or that. So we learned that moment. We found the right accountant who went back and gave us $20,000 back. But what we learned was, 30, yeah. What we learned that moment was that you don't have to stick with your people. You can't be like, oh, yes, this is a black person or a person of color, or this is a woman I want to support. No, you are an entity. There's no color for your business. All you see is green. Yep, it's green at that moment. And you need to make sure you're aligning yourself with the right person. We're in franchise. Everybody we deal with has to be franchised. Like, our attorney is a franchise lawyer. Like, everything, if you haven't dealt with franchises, like right now we're building out, and this gentleman is like, well, I've done other stuff, and I'm like, nope, you're not on my radar. Because you have to already understand the franchise landscape. So I think it's just important to make sure that you have that relationship. It's hard to get money. SBA is a great option. Equity, you're going to have to put some money into whatever you believe in, as well as you have to do projections.
I'm getting a sign now that we're almost out of time. You mentioned sacrifices. Sacrifices that you have to make to get to where you all are in business and the level of success that you've achieved. Can you talk to us briefly about some of those sacrifices you've had to make along the way? Ramona, if you want to start.
Hi, thank you. It's me again. Sacrifices. I think we had a pre-call, and I said, well, I have some really good sacrificial lamb, laying it all out. But one in particular, it happened during COVID. I was building 2 locations during COVID. So when COVID hit, I'm in construction. 1 location had a loan, I had financing for it. The second location, the bank pulled out after I already put my money up to get the contractor started on some of his payments. And the bank calls me, tells me, hey, we're not going to be able to do this. The economy's unstable. We're so sorry. But I'm in construction already. With my first Chick-fil-A, I was super excited about it. And I had to figure it out really quickly. I need $1.2 million to finish this project. I made a few calls back to relationships, to my Russell relationships. One of the young ladies used to work there. She worked on the project, on the bidding project in Miami, where I kind of got my foot in the door. And I said, do you know anyone? She said, I know a brother in Orlando. Let me call him. It's COVID now. Everything's shut down. Downtown is a ghost town. I call him. He says, great, some of my clients are interested in this. He managed like 96 professional athletes. He said, Ramona, let's meet. He flies to Miami the next day. We meet. He said, well, what do you need? I said, I need $1.2 million. And he said, well, what are you willing to give up? So that's all I give up. Can I see the loan? And I had to make a really, really scary Shark Tank deal, because it was either failing at this Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, they were sending people down, like giving, like offering thoughts and prayers, but they were there to find out who was going to take this store over other operators just coming to meet with me. And so I met with Craig. I must have a really good way of getting money out of people, because I met with Craig, similar situation. I think Craig was a week with financing. We didn't even paper the deal. By papering the deal means you have your terms in place, your lawyers. He just basically sent money in, took out a partner. But again, he said, caveat, it's going to be a loan, and we still want equity. I said, okay. So I took out a partner that was there, took him out with that money, and they came in for the deal they had, and I was able to open my first store. But I had to sacrifice equity and then go into a loan, which it was going to be a bank loan, but it was a different type of loan. It was 5 years. And that was something that was very challenging for me to have to deal with. But again, I made it happen. It was 1 week. Someone believed in me, believed in the passion that I had about what I was doing, and I'm able to sit here today. And now, not with one Chick-fil-A, but opening my second Chick-fil-A actually next week in Chicago.
Thank you so much, ladies. We're unfortunately out of time, but hopefully you can stick around in case others are interested in pursuing these passions. They can still have those conversations with you after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Definitely.
So clearly, even though there are challenges sometimes, these ladies win, win, win.
Right, and it almost appears as if all they do is win, win, win. And what I believe is that they are hardworking, they are motivated, they have the right attitude, and that's why success is theirs. And I hope that during this conversation you were able to see how you can succeed using some of their techniques.
Absolutely. Well, that's the time that we have for today. But thank you for joining Women Lead. And until next time,
be empowered.
Be sure to watch Women Lead every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on WSFL, the CW network.